Off Script with Super E recommends listener discretion, as these real but sometimes uncensored stories can be filled with mature content.
I'm here with Super E. I'm going to tell you another story. Super E, how are you?
Doing good. How about you?
I'm doing really good. Have you thought of a good story to tell everybody?
Yeah, I got one. And this story is so dripping with irony that you could fill up an irony pool because
Really?
it was a coincidence. It was unbelievable. And I'll dive right into it.
Do it.
It was about, generally, we had morning court and afternoon court. And I had this afternoon court that was 1:30 in the afternoon. And it was on a prostitute. And generally, the prostitutes didn't have enough money to hire a private attorney, so they used public defenders.
Right.
And the public defenders, you got to know them, and you worked with them, and you knew what to expect from them, and they knew what to expect from you. So it made things smoother. Court went a lot faster.
Right.
Well, I'm in court for a prostitute that day, and it's got this new guy that I don't remember seeing or dealing with. And I was just talking to him about the case here. Here's what I got. And just
This
let
is
you know.
the defense attorney you're talking about?
Yeah, the public defender.
Public defender, right. Okay.
Yes. And so I'm telling about the case, and if the prosecutor agreed to the what the public defender wanted to do for his client, I said I'm not opposed to that. If you can get the prosecutor to agree to it, I'll be fine. No big deal. He had an unbelievably snotty, arrogant attitude towards me. He's kind of dismisses of me. I didn't know if I'm saying that. Dismissive. There we
Dismissive.
go.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And I thought, what an incredible asshole. I'm trying to help you and your client by not being a jerk, and
Right.
you're being a jerk. I was kind of like, well, fuck this guy. But
Like, what was we've all run into this. There are some defense attorneys, public defenders, that are just nice and reasonable people. And then you run into the other faction of it, and they can kind of be pricks. Can't
yeah, yeah, and I will say that the ones that are the pricks are the extremely low percentage, because I love the defense attorneys. I got along with the defense attorneys. I got along with the criminal attorneys, the private ones,
Yeah.
and you worked well with them.
Right.
And but this guy was just just a jerk. And so that was in my mind. I was like, man, this guy, he needs to learn some people skills and to appreciate when people are trying to cooperate and work with him and
Right.
his client.
Right.
So, we go to court that day, and I can't remember what happened. The case might got continued or whatever. The public defender might ask for a continuance, and it was granted, so I left. But it was on my mind. I was like, man, I did not appreciate that guy's attitude.
Do
So
you
I
can you any specifics? I mean, was he just the way he talked to you? He was just
yeah,
dismissive
he was kind of like, when I try to talk to him, he goes, hey, that's fine. I'll talk to you later. That kind of thing. And all I was going to say is, hey, man, whatever you get the prosecutor to agree to or whatever, I'm fine with it. I was going to actually say one sentence, and he just acted like I was bothered. And it wasn't like he was, a bunch of people around him. He was just sitting there looking at something. And, that's all I did. I was just going to say one sentence.
Yeah,
And he just had that.
You're trying to make his life easier. You're being cooperative, and trying to make, the case flow, and he's being a jerk.
He's being, I would describe it as being kind of a douchebag, but I would describe it more of a giant douchebag.
Okay. All right.
And
I got a good picture of it.
Yeah. Right. So I zip into the office, And that's still fresh on my mind. I'm telling people, this guy, what a douche. But what we were doing that day, we had some young female officers. They come in to assist the unit, and we would get on the computer and have these fake profiles, and you would pretend to be a young girl, like your name would be Megan Indy 14, and you would just start. I really didn't know how to do it very well, but I was watching as the computer nerds were doing it,
So
and
you're
then
you're talking about you were conducting like the internet predator type investigation.
yes, they were have a seat kind of thing to catch a predator. Is that what it's called?
Right, right. So
Yeah,
so that on the computer you were using other officers or whatever. They were posing as what, underage
girls.
girls?
Yes,
Okay,
and
okay, got it.
and so they would put in their name description that they were like 13 or 14 years old. So the guy, whoever was on the other end, knew exactly how old they were.
Right.
And here's the way this conversation, most of them started this way. It's like, "Hi, Megan, how are you? Oh, I'm doing fine. How are you? What grade you in? I'm in seventh. What's your favorite class? It's English. Oh, that's interesting. What else do you like to do? Well, I like to, watch MTV. And then next thing you'd see, dick pic. And you're like, wait, how did this go from I like to watch MTV? The dude sending a dick pic,
Oh
things like
boy.
that.
Okay. All
And
right.
so you're like, damn.
Creeps.
So one of the female officers, she starts getting a conversation with this guy. And it was like, just like that conversation, what grade you in? I'm in seventh or eighth grade, that kind of thing. And then immediately the guy goes into, I just want to fuck you. And you're like, oh my God. And he goes, he said this, I want to fill you up with my cum. And you're like,
Uh,
oh man, this guy is sick. And then the next thing is, the next, if I remember correctly, was like, I love you. I want to marry you. Can I meet you? Something like that.
oh boy.
And I'm like, wow, this guy sounds like he's all over the place of being depraved.
Right.
And so you had a very dangerous vibe.
Right.
And so, the goal was in this, you would have the young police officer, if the guy wanted to meet somewhere, she would be standing outside like a business, like like on the gas station. And if the suspect pulled into the gas station lot with his car and then got out and approached what he
Hey,
thought was a
Super 8.
13. Yeah.
Super 8. I had a little glitch on my end. I'm sorry. So, um, okay. So in this instance, he from the profile, he knows this officer or whatever is 13 or 14. They've had conversations, blah blah blah. So then they set up a meeting. Is that what happened?
Yes. Generally,
Okay.
the guys say, where can I meet you at? And
Okay.
in their mind, they think it's a 13 or 14-year-old.
Got it. Okay.
So in this situation, um, we were wanting to meet in a public place, of course, well, lit enough that we could see what's going on,
Hmm.
and you know, plenty of room for the surveillance officers to be able to see but not be
Okay.
detected.
Got it.
That's what our goal was. So
Right.
this guy wanted to meet our undercover officer that he thought was 14. So we had her type back that she was going to be at this gas station on the south side of our town. And she described what she was going to be wearing, a pink shirt with white shorts, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And so where the guy said he would meet at, we noticed, man, it's kind of hard to get undercover cars located without, sticking out too much,
Right.
because there's a lot of empty parking lots. And if you had a car in there by itself, that might be a little suspicious, because this was about 9 o'clock at night during the summer. It was getting dark, summertime, but it was dark. Everything should have been closed down around this gas station. So cars in the parking lot
Mhm.
might be a little suspicious, because these guys are very, very conscious of their surroundings. And so you got to make sure that they cannot detect the backup.
Got it.
So at the time I was driving a cab, my beloved 78 Oldsmobile was being repaired. And the only car they had available to me was a yellow cab, which I actually loved
Oh,
because guess what?
that's a good undercover.
It made me invisible.
Right.
So when we went to the gas station where she was going to stand, we noticed that, man, there's no place for anybody to sit except for me in the cab. And I could be right there at one of the gas pumps and nobody was going to pay attention.
Right. Right.
So now we know that we're supposed to be there at 9:30 at night at the gas station. Our policewoman, 14-year-old girl, she said she was going to be standing in front of the store on the far left of the front door.
Okay.
So I see this car pulling in, and he described what his car was going to be. And I said, hey, this car looks like what he told her it was going to look like. And he was circling the lot a few times. He was looking for police officers.
Huh?
I couldn't see the person because it was dark. You couldn't see in the car.
Right.
And I said, man, this guy's circling. It's got to be him. He's looking for a police officer. So he circled a few times, satisfied he didn't see anybody. Did not even look at the cab. Didn't even look at it.
Okay.
He pulls in to the front parking space right by the front door of the convenience store. And our policewoman is probably about 25 feet to his left. The dude gets out of the car and he starts walking toward her.
Okay.
And he's waving at her. He's like, hey, Megan. And she's like, hi. She's trying to use the highest, squeakiest voice she can, the officer is.
Right.
So now he's walking towards her. Now he's broached that probable cause where he's making contact with what he thinks thinks is a 13-year-old girl.
Got it.
So we've got enough for the rest. I tell everybody, hey, he's approaching her now. I get out of my car and I just start walking like I'm going into the store. And then when she gives me the signal, then I'm going to go towards him. Well, he gets about 8 feet from her and recognizes this ain't no 14-year-old girl. This is a 27-year-old woman who's got to be a police officer. Well, he turns around and starts walking back towards his car.
Okay.
And then he's about 15 feet from his car. I'm about 15 feet from his car. He's walking kind of fast. I start walking kind of fast. He walks a little faster. I walk a little faster. He starts running. I start running. And we get to the car at the same exact time. And
Okay.
he tries to open the door, and I race up on him. Now, his back's to me, so I can't see who he is.
Right.
And I thought he was going to struggle. And I just told him, listen, you can go to jail. Now, this is a big bluff, audience. You've got to bluff these people to get them to comply with what you're saying. So you have to put a scare into them. So
Right.
I used the line of, I thought he was going to try to start fighting me. I was going to put that fight. I was going to stop that fight right then. He started when I thought he was going to resist. I said, "You can go to jail via wagon or an ambulance." So I would not resist.
Good one.
And this is what he said to me. He goes, "I'm sorry, Detective Super E." He actually said my real name, but for the show, we'll say Super. He goes, "I'm sorry, Detective Super E. I apologize." And I'm like, "How the hell does this guy know who I am?" I spin him around. It's that same public defender that treated me like dog shit earlier in the day. I could not believe the unbelievable coincidence compounded by the unbelievable amount of irony in this whole thing. I
You
said,
are.
yeah, I was like, what are you doing? I'm sorry. All he could say was, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. He must have said that 5,000 times. And I just couldn't believe it.
Oh
And
my.
so, yeah.
So,
And so we cuffed him up and whisked him away.
so, and this is all in the same day. You had court where this guy was being all smarmy to you, and then
Yes.
later in the day, he is your predator.
Yeah. I would say, what was it? About 5 or 6 hours later, it
Oh,
seemed like
oh my God.
that very same day.
That is some irony there, Super A.
Yeah, that was an unbelievable coincidence. And I know he got fired, but I really don't know whatever happened to him at the, what kind of punishment he got through the court system. I don't know whatever happened to that.
Holy mo! That's kind of disturbing.
Yes, exactly.
Because public defenders, they're like, prosecutors, police officers, judges. They're public servants.
Yeah,
That's disturbing.
yeah, and I did not expect that from him. But if you was to read the comments that he said, they were just like, they would go from one extreme to another. You know, they'd be so vile, and then it'd be like, "I love you, I want to marry you, I want you to be my wife," and then it would go on to say something else vile.
Yeah. Okay, that's disturbing.
Yeah, and there's people, and they like I've heard this said a million times. They're walking among us.
Right. Right. And that is true, and that is kind of scary, kind of
Yes,
disturbing. It's you would think, okay, these pervs that are preying on children. You always think, well, I'd be able to pick them out, or or they're gonna look or act differently than me. But it's not always true, is it?
no, I remember a sex crimes officer told me he told me you cannot pick these guys out. You don't you don't know when you see him. You would never think, well, that's the profile. No, there is no profile. It could be anybody.
Right. Okay. So that's that's amazing and disturbing at the same.
Yeah.
So these kind of internet predator, um, type investigations. Sounds like you did several of these or helped out in several.
Yeah, I helped out. I helped out on them doing like the undercover and things like that. When it came to the brainy work, like I said, we had the computer nerd guys,
Right.
cyber crimes guys. We love them very much, and because they're extremely helpful. But they knew how to do all that stuff.
Yeah, but they needed the undercover element of this,
Yes,
which you helped provide, you and the female officer, to make the case.
exactly.
So and it's all an expertise. You couldn't do what the computer guys did, but they certainly couldn't do what you did.
Exactly.
And that's
Yeah.
why you work together and put these cases together.
Yeah. Exactly. You know what? That was something else that I thought I was pretty good at. I was able to figure out who could help me the best if I had an investigation. Who was the best at doing the computer thing? Who was the best at surveillance?
Right.
Everybody had their strength.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Well, that is a great story, a disturbing story. But it's just kind of another example of, okay, oh, Super E's out, he's locking up street prostitutes. But then the next day, he's out getting this child predator off the streets who just happened to be a defense attorney.
Exactly.
I wonder if he represented himself in court.
I don't think, no, because you know what they say, he'd have a fool for.
Good one. Good one.
You know what? We should end it on that, A Train.
Okay. Yep. We're just going to end it. That was very interesting, very informative. And thanks for helping out on that case. Getting him,
no problem.
At least locked up on this case. So, okay, everybody. Hope you enjoyed that. Come back with another one shortly. See ya. Bye.
Take care. Bye.